Last week we told you about the crazy gaming event that Galax is putting on. This week they decided to give you guys some deals. If you get a GTX 980 Ti Hall of Fame edition, you can get a free 240GB SSD. Also, they have some really good deals on that SSD. And if you're on more of a budget, they do have the GTX 960 for around $200. Check for the links to all these products in the top of the description. Good morning, everybody. I like assuming that it's morning. It's nice to watch things like this in the morning, right? Ruin the rest of your day with this mug? Which one is a mug? My face or this thing in my hand? Why is the English language so hateful? Thank you guys so much for Patreon, by the way. Everyone on Patreon, all of our tech support members. I'm breathing a sigh of relief. I want to say that I'm not going to preach too much in this episode. We'll get to a few things later on, but I want to say that these changes are coming. Don't expect them to be an overnight thing. I'm currently now empowered to look for someone to help us produce some content, as in a videographer and editor. So that's what all those guys who were on the forum and said, "Hey, we want to help out." I'm going through that like now-ish. So it's time to do some good things. All right, Wendell, you ready to?
But keep giving.
Get down
keep
to
on
business?
giving. Don't forget to keep on giving. We've got a lot of
big goals.
There's more goals.
Yeah, you know something? I got all excited. I was like, oh, we can do some new things. And then I sat down with the reality of this, and I was like, well, that's about enough to hire one person full time. So it's good. But let's keep on doing awesome things because we got some projects and. Yeah, thanks. You guys are awesome. Let's just move on with what's going on. So Sweden, they're shifting to a 6-hour workday. Some companies in Sweden have already done this, and I've just always been an advocate of working less. No, it's not what I've been an advocate of. I've always been an advocate of balance, and I'm kind of a hypocrite because sometimes I find myself out of whack. But you have to have a balance in order to get your work done. Sometimes it's hard to stay focused if you work too many hours. Some special people can do this. Like Wendell, I think you work more than just about anybody.
The work's not going to do itself.
But they're interesting. Some of the studies that they have is, people they're working 6-hour days, and they're finding that the productivity's not really harmed. The only thing they're really seeing, the only change they're seeing is that their employees are happier. I think at some certain point when you have people sitting there and they're doing things, it may be different if you run your own business, and you're really dedicated and you're passionate, or you're working on a project like. People who work on movies or build animatronics, that's it. They're into this. But if you're sitting in a cubicle doing something that, you do not find particularly stimulating, after about 5 or 6 hours, you're like, is anybody looking? Can I open up Reddit? Maybe a little bit of Yahoo Pool? Do you guys play Yahoo Pool?
No.
But what do you guys do there? What do you minimize when your boss walks by? I want to know. I don't know.
Sure that'll be a post somewhere.
What do you minimize when your boss walks by?
Yeah, didn't like the really old DOS games have a boss key where you could hit a key and it would look like you were in a spreadsheet or something? I distinctly remember like Commander Keen having that. So that was a thing.
I forget what game that was, but I mean, I think the 6-hour workday may be an interesting way to go. Depending on the job type. I don't think it's going to be beneficial for every job. For like programmers and developers and stuff, there's a lot to this, and like 6-hour workday is probably about right because when you're in any kind of career that requires a lot of intellectual like heavy lifting or like a brain heavy lifting, 40 hours a week is exhausting. It's like Olympic gold medal territory. 30 hours a week is much more reasonable. I used to do some, I still, I guess, do some Japanese martial arts that I won't name the exact style, but one thing we did that I thought was pretty interesting is every 20 or 30 minutes we would stop, and you could have a cup of tea or you could sit down, and you were not allowed to talk about martial arts or what you were doing. You had to talk about something, talk about politics, you could talk about the wrestling bears, you could talk about hiking, you could talk about reading a book, but you could not talk about that. The whole idea was that you clear your mind out, let yourself absorb a few things, and then then you're fresh and you can continue on. So, and it really worked. Like it really kept things fresh. Your mind is a tool that must be used correctly. So if you just keep throwing, input, and just working and grinding. I mean, a lot of people say that some of the best ideas they've ever had were like in the shower, or you wake up in the middle of the night. Well, I don't think it's necessarily because the shower is some magical inspirational place.
I think it's because your mind is just kind of empty, and that's when things can pop up. So you're not grinding at that point. You're just in the shower. I mean, you might be grinding. I don't know what you guys do in the shower.
For those people that have learned to exploit their subconscious to solve problems, that's very much true. A lot of the time, your subconscious doesn't have the opportunity to present the solution because there's so much noise in the foreground. So if you've gotten to the point where the things that I just said make sense, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the noise is hard to drown out. Keep a notebook beside the bed. That's another tip that I follow. But a lot of times, because you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, I've got a genius idea. Oh my God, this is amazing. And you write it down immediately. Like sometimes the notebook would be across the room and I'd be like, I'm too sleepy. I don't want to go over there and get the notebook. So I wouldn't write them down, but then started writing them down. But a lot of times I was like, I wake up in the middle of the night and I was like, I've got the genius idea of how to solve everything. And then the next day I'll wake up and I'll look at my notebook and my notebook will say something like, fish are delicious. May I slap you with this fish? And I'll be like, what was happening last night that I wrote this thinking it was genius? Those are the nights when I've had too much to drink and then go to bed and wake up in the middle of the night thinking, I've got it. This is going to be gold. And it's not. It's not gold. Anyway, I do want to know what you guys minimize when your boss walks by. Maybe I have a story about that. Maybe I don't. I used to play Fallout on the job, Fallout 1 and 2. I had an ingenious scheme, so... But yeah, it worked. One earbud instead of two. Never got caught to my knowledge. So let me know, Wendell. What's the have you ever caught anybody there? I mean, you probably can't tell stories about The Office, right? Have you ever caught anybody there minimizing anything? Like, what are you doing over there playing Connect 4 or something?
A few times.
Like, what's going on? Yeah. you walk by and you see like the color of their face change. Like, wait a second. You were looking at something, and now your face is a different color. You're looking at something else. But it happened as soon as you saw me.
Yeah. Let's get shucking.
Anyway, all right. What's next on the list? So this is a fun one. Amazon is thinking about banning, or they say they're going to ban the sale of Apple and Google video streaming devices. The catch is that they're going to ban any devices that don't work well with the Amazon Prime Video. They want to make sure that their stuff will run on the rival hardware, and they're willing to take a hit because people are going to come there. These are big items from Apple and Google, and they're going to sacrifice all the potential sales from those items just to make sure that they can push their platform. That's something that I've seen Amazon do, and I don't think they did a very good job with their notebook or whatever. What was that thing called? It's so stupid. I don't even remember the Fire Pro or whatever. Is that what it was called? No, that's an AMD graphics card. It was what's that stupid thing called, Wendell? Their tablet.
I was exposed to the Kindle Fire.
Yeah.
It was awful, and just awful. I can't even describe how awful it was. The HD versions, like the later versions, were much less awful, but the first version was truly awful. They really thought people would probably use the little help desk feature on the tablet where an old person could hit a button and then they would have a video feed of somebody who was going to help them buy from Amazon. I think only about 4 people used that. Probably Jeff Bezos was like, let's have thousands of people in a call center somewhere and actually do this. No one actually did any of that. And the Fire Stick? Oh, does anybody in the audience actually use a Fire Stick? Is it actually not awful? Because the reports that I have are that it's pretty awful. But I haven't laid my own hands on one, so it might not be that awful. But from what I've heard, it's not great.
I will say that some of the Netflix original content has been very interesting. Netflix and that business model and the business model for Netflix and HBO and stuff, where they get more money from the audience. That's what we need to be. We need to be like the HBO, Netflix of the content creation YouTube world. And
if only we were entertaining and we actually had someone who could help us write our jokes and whatnot. That would be would be amazing.
Every week we delight 50,000 people and piss off 4,000 people. We got to piss off more people, I think. That's the key to success, is making people angry, because nothing spreads quicker than outrage.
Yeah, like our Apple video.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many outraged emails I still get over that. It's really, really amazing.
It's funny how people share things that they love, But if they find something they hate, they shove it down everyone's throat. Everyone, have you seen this new music video for this stupid song called Friday? Friday. Have you seen it? Oh my God. And we've got to take this to David Letterman. We've got to tweet this all over the world. Tell all your friends. Call your mom. That's the way it works. Why are we such a... We're despicable.
The only thing I've seen lately is somebody that photoshopped you on the bicycle and me in the ET basket. That was great. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it until yesterday, and then blood shot out of my nose.
Yeah, I think that's probably the hardest I've laughed in a few weeks. So yeah, enjoy this picture that's on the screen, guys, that I delicately and carefully edited into this video. All right. Yeah, I don't know what Amazon thinks they're doing here, but it seems like a bad business model, and I think it's stupid. Maybe they're right here in Seattle. Maybe I can go in there and talk to the Dread Pirate Bezos and just be like, "Hey, listen, I'm some dude. Don't do this," and he'll be like, "Oh, some dude. Thanks for telling me that this is a bad idea." That'll never happen.
You know, how long until Amazon doesn't want to carry computers unless they come bundled with the Amazon app? How long until, Amazon doesn't want to carry detergents that don't come with the little push to reorder button? I mean, where do you draw the line? I mean, if Amazon gets their way with this. Apple also did this with iFixit. Well, not exactly, but they sent the new Apple TV to iFixit, and they promptly disassembled it, and then Apple pulled the iFixit app from the App Store because that was the only thing that Apple could do. That's that's kind of punitive, I guess. I mean, okay, because it's Apple, the company, and I guess iFixit was not supposed to take apart the Apple TV, and they were under a non-disclosure agreement, a general non-disclosure agreement. But iFixit's whole purpose is to take stuff apart, and so there's sort of the more megalomaniacs that are in these companies, the more they're going to just do anything to undermine you. And Apple's always done that. It's like whenever you have a member of the press that didn't just gush about Apple something, they would get blacklisted and they would never be able to come to Apple events. I think the first person that happened to was John C. Dvorak. He was like, this keyboard is awful. And it was about a really awful keyboard. Or the round mouse. I think it was actually the round mouse because it was the hockey puck mouse.
Thing? Yeah.
And he was like, this mouse is awful. And it was just blacklisted from all Apple events. That may not be how it happened. I don't know.
They can't handle the truth.
Something like that happened with some journalist, and it continues to happen. And it's like, oh, this guy didn't drink the Kool-Aid. It's like, we got to blacklist him. It's like, do everything we can to undermine him. And it's like, okay, that's a little cult-like there. Okay.
Speaking of blacklisting and all that and scaring people, there's a new app. It's sort of like a Yelp for people. It's called People. Why is it P-E-P-L-E? Really? People? Like pee? Like urine? People? Really? That's what it is? So, yeah, you can rate humans. I mean, you can go on there and you can write good reviews about them. You can write bad reviews about them. Now, I guess there'll be an opt-out policy after someone someone is going to have to enter you into the system. Someone enters whatever guy, and then it's probably people are probably going to enter you in the system to write nasty things about you. I don't know. It seems like people again are more willing to put forth effort if they hate something. Like, I really hate this. God, I hate it. I'm going to go to the internet and I'm going to spend lots of time because of the passion for my hate. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how I feel about this. There's already that system that allows girls to rate men. It's not sexist at all. But yeah, there's that system that allows girls to rate men so that if a guy calls you up and say, hey, you want to go down to eat some pizza on the beach and maybe do something, have a milkshake afterwards and just keep eating? I don't know what guys want to do. Yes, I do. I like that was weird and seemed a bit invasive, but I don't know. Is this going to be something that's helpful for society? You can just go on there and read all the dirt? I don't think so. I think it's going to be quite a negative thing, and for a lot of reasons. I have an idea about this. I think that okay, let's say there's a guy named John. John's my buddy. One of my other friends, him and John don't get along. That John rubs him the wrong way. I don't know what they're into. This is a terrible innuendo show. I feel like Jay and Barclays right now. Anyway, just doesn't like John, right? But I like John for, because we're different people. But this guy's going to go online and write something negative about John. What if a couple other people write something negative about him? Is that going to influence the way I see him? Am I going to look for those flaws now? A friend of mine, a few years ago, that's story time, told me that San Francisco was nothing but a bunch of crackheads. And when I went to San Francisco, I was looking for crackheads. And I thought, yeah, there's a lot of crackheads here. This place is full of crackheads. And then I snapped out of it and I was like, you know what? If he didn't tell me that, I probably would have seen the nice couple over there walking. I probably would have seen that professor over there. I probably would have seen that dude throwing a ball for his dog. But I didn't see that. I saw most of the bad stuff because that's what I was told to look for. And I wonder if this becomes something like that, where people are told, hey, here are the negative things about a human being. And then when you meet them, you're looking for those negative things and you don't like them before you even meet them. That's not fair. Dude, it's not fair. The world's not fair. I think that this needs to be... let's just beat them up. The people who made this, find them where they. Well, they're the real monsters here.
It's really
they're the real Frankensteins.
There was already a company called People that made a product that it seems kind of interesting. It was a peephole for your door that would stream to your phone. So like when somebody knocked at your door, you could bring up an app on your phone to see if you even wanted to bother answering the door. Which, me being the grizzled old person that I am, that sounds really good.
Cool. That's really cool.
I don't have to get out of my chair. It's like, why wouldn't you answer your door? It's like, maybe there's people at the door that I don't want to talk to. I don't know. I don't like people, whatever. And so there was already a company that did that. But of course, everybody knows People, the other People, which is the Yelp of like rating people. Like you would just like enter somebody and rate them. And so the company has already destroyed another company that was a startup company that had an interesting product. So, already out the gate, they're just, a bull in a china shop is just messing things up. The People app that is like Yelp for people, it smells like it's just like a graduate student project doing a thing to try to get people to think or something, to like try to drive outrage and controversy. Because again, there's another example of things that are shared virally and, going insane. So
we got to do something outrageous. I mean, we got to I don't know, what's something outrageous that's believable. You know what? Sometimes I don't want to grow that fast. Maybe we don't want to do something outrageous. You grow too fast, you grow fast, you start attracting swill. You grow slowly, and you get a really good audience.
We've got enough friends in the audience. We don't need any more friends, right, audience? We all know each other. Everything's cool. It's like to bring on one more person, and it's like, no, I don't really like that guy. Do you like that guy? No, nobody likes that guy. We're good. Don't tell your friends. It's fine.
Read some stuff about this guy on People. Mm-hmm. You have 48 hours, to be fair. You have 48 hours to contest any negative stuff. But it just sounds like fucking high school drama. Ridiculous. All right.
So that's another thing I'm going to have to write a bot to watch. So great.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to check that, 48 hours. I'm not going to check that. If I get an email from that, it's going straight to the recycler. No.
Hey, but you know what? You can make a good chunk of change selling the services of the bot that you wrote to watch People to a bunch of clients out there who really care about this sort of petty nonsense.
I've already got that with Wikipedia. I mean, what's next?
You know what? If I meet somebody who uses People, that person is probably an idiot and not worth my time in the first place. So if they're... That'll be a good way for me to know, oh, you actually use that service? Well, get out of my life. It's easy as that. You're a scumbag. Here's your hat. Moving right along. I've been in a very aggressive mood since I moved to Seattle. It's fun. It's going to get worse. No, it's not. I'll be nice. I'm a teddy bear. Someone's going to turn that into something. All right. Tennessee is defending their right to screw up local broadband. I can't believe that Tennessee is still going after this. They're saying that they've sued the FCC in March. Basically, what they want to do is allow AT&T to write the broadband laws. And Tennessee is a really nice place to look at as a case study for what broadband can do to local communities and small communities. Well, Chattanooga, Tennessee, they did their own broadband thing. And all of a sudden, everything's going crazy. People are moving there. Shops are opening. Mom and pop stuff. Kids with beards in the streets.
Chattanooga gigabit internet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so anyway, AT&T helped the government. AT&T is basically ghostwriting all this legislation, but they had the Tennessee state government create a law that says, no, this cannot expand anymore. You're ruining AT&T's lives, everybody. What about AT&T? Look at little AT&T. They're starving to death over here. Come on. So, yeah. Anyway, they've now filed an appeal for this nonsense because they're saying that the FCC and the U.S. government have violated Tennessee's right of self-governance. Now, the problem here is that, number one, what Tennessee is doing is not in the favor of their people. It's like, hey, Tennessee is sticking a knife in the socket right now, and the government's being like, will you stop putting that knife in the socket? That they keep doing it over and over again. And it's just like, stop it. You're already wearing a helmet. You're already drooling on yourself, and you're already sitting in the corner. Stop. You tie your hands behind your back. What do you want? Tennessee still is doing this stuff, but it's all because AT&T is telling them to do it and giving them money to do it. Yeah, just keep doing that. Please keep doing that. Tennessee's like, yeah, we're self-governance. No, you're basically an AT&T state at this point. The other problem here is that in the 1996 Communications Act, which is a federal thing that overrides the state, it says that the FCC can do these things. And that was back from 1996. So I think it's kind of laughable that Tennessee is fighting so hard to screw its the public. So if you're in Tennessee, I would be outraged. I would be totally outraged.
What's probably happening is AT&T has told the legislature there that basically they own everything, and that out of the goodness of their heart, they have been maintaining the god-awful infrastructure there, and that it's really just not in their business interest to even do that, but they're just doing that out of the kindness of their heart. And if the legislature doesn't cooperate, they're going to make it impossible for AT&T to do business. And if you're a legislator and you don't know any better, that sounds like a plausible situation. It's like, well, yeah, Chattanooga's got gigabit internet, but, most of the state is rural. Most of the state, the population density is very low, and AT&T is not required, with the Public Utilities Commission to maintain the infrastructure and, maintain access to this. And they could very easily price people out of actually having landlines and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that a lot of people already have cell phones, and AT&T has already lost a bunch of their infrastructure. And so they're kind of pissed about that because, yeah, they recouped their investment in the 80s already, but they're saying that there's nothing that would really drive the investment in the infrastructure to begin with. That's completely not true when you think about infrastructure in terms of delivering internet. But if you look at just the phone lines and just the stuff that goes with the phone lines, then you say, oh, yeah, this is really bad. If AT&T pulls out, if they pull out of the region or they pull out of the state, then, that's going to leave a huge vacuum of telecom service. And I think that's probably what the legislature is afraid of, is that AT&T lobbyists have basically said, look, we're going to pull out, sell out, whatever, and you guys are going to be on your own. So we really need to be able to write these laws so that we can make a few dollars because, look at our books. We're not making any money. What the legislators don't realize that it's like Hollywood accounting. It's like Star Wars has never made a profit. And so it's like the AT&T balance sheet there. It's like, we've never made a profit running all the infrastructure in Tennessee. We've got all these expenses. It's just crazy. It's Hollywood accounting, only it's your telecom company.
They're probably even better at it than Hollywood. But
yeah, probably. Because their infrastructure was paid, generations ago. It was paid off. So I mean,
yeah, they're not making
Star Wars.
They're not making big budget movies every year, and they're just like sitting there letting the cash roll in. Maybe putting up a tower here and there, but All right, let's talk about this guy who bought Google. This is really funny. So, Sanmei Ved, he used to work at Google like 5.5 years ago. And he was just playing around with Google's, a domain tool where you can go on to use a Google service to buy domain names. And he just sometimes searches around for stuff to buy. And so he just, for fun, typed, let's try to buy google.com. The domain name is available. Adjust glasses. Okay, the domain name is available. All right, well, surely this was a mistake, but let's go ahead and click purchase. Okay, purchase, $12. Okay, here's $12. Thank you. You now own google.com. He purchased google.com using Google's domain registration service.
Oops.
And what's really funny is, he owned google.com for a very short while before he turned it over. And the funny thing is he was given access to like the domain tools and everything. He was given access to the back end of, I'm not sure if they use a cPanel or what they use, a console dashboard. He was given access to the console dashboard, and apparently it probably was the real thing. He could have messed around with things.
Oops.
Can you imagine you're sitting there and you're like, okay, let's just reroute all this stuff to something awful. They should have rerouted Google.com to Goatsy.
DuckDuckGo. It's like, it's a political statement.
Oh, that'd be funny. DuckDuckGo. I was over here thinking Goatsy, but no, that's a much better thing to do.
much less horrifying for the people subjected to that.
Oh, yes.
We just thought we'd share because Randy, the intern at Google, somehow managed to check something into a repo, which ultimately led to this.
It's like that would have been like taking a rug that's under everyone in the country or the world, just a giant rug, and just shaking it one time and watching everyone go, everyone at the same time. That's what would have happened.
Wasn't this is like 2008? The Google was offline for like 25 seconds, and a bunch of my ISPs that are plugged into or a bunch of my friends that are in ISPs that are plugged into the backbone of the internet had like their little router traffic graph things, and it's like during that 15-second window, like 40% of the traffic on the internet was just stopped. Like nobody knew what to do. It's like, wait, Google's down. What do we do? And they just didn't do anything. It was like, let's try to reload Google. I don't understand. Why isn't Google working? So that's kind of scary.
1,000 people died every second.
Because I think Netflix is 40% of the internet, but yeah, a lot of people didn't know what to do when Google was unreachable.
This is weird. In this article, Google doesn't know why this happened. They're not sure what caused this. So they're looking into it. It's nice that everything's cool. I mean, the guy, he still loves Google. His Facebook profile picture is a Google logo only. So interesting. But yeah, he's... That's like the highlight of this guy's life. He said, for 1 minute I had access, and he just can't shake. Where's the last quote? I can't shake that feeling that I actually owned Google.com. He's set for life. He tell anybody, hey, I used to own Google.com for 5 minutes. He used to own Google.com. Put that on your resume, buddy. All right. What's next? So Tesla Model X, they've got a bioweapon defense mode. So there's a biodefense mode button in the new SUV from Tesla, among all the other things. But basically, the HEPA filter has like an extreme or a maximum level. So Elon Musk is saying that it should be able to stop weapons, like a weapons-grade bioterrorism thing. You just sit there, press the button, clean, beautiful, filtered air. Why can't we have that in our homes?
It's maintaining a positive air pressure. There are HVAC systems that maintain a positive pressure. Most modern systems, actually, because, house designers figure they're never going to seal everything perfectly. So the HVAC system is designed to maintain a positive air pressure so that it's going to blow air from the inside to the outside to not suck in, dirt and dust and contaminants and who knows what from the outside air, and hopefully not have a draft, because your house blowing air out is better, especially in cold, than bringing air in. So at least air in through drafts and crap like that. And so this is a positive air pressure system for the cabin in the car, meaning that the air that it's using to pressurize the cabin has been through a filter. So it's not really, it's just the cabin is sealed. So I guess if you don't run the air circulation system, you'll suffocate after a while because the cabin is so well sealed. I don't know. That's I would be worried about that now, but they've probably got software to deal with that. Although if the computer crashes, or Randy, the shade tree mechanic, works on your car and he's like, oh, you don't need the air circulation thing, it's fine, and then you pass out from oxygen deprivation, maybe that would be a thing. I don't know.
Let's talk some more about this advertising situation. Well, last week we mentioned how AdBlock has really made content a more difficult thing. And, there's lots of interesting comments to be read about that. People going crazy about the way they feel about this. But AdBlock really, in the last year or so, has picked up a lot, like a ridiculous amount, to the point where our revenues are about 1/4 what they used to be per user. That's why I'm thanking you guys so much for Patreon. But Google's their ad boss, I can't say his name, Mr. Ramaswamy. I'm not sure how to say that. Is probably an Indian name. Anyway, he's their top advertising executives, and he's even worried about this because it's affecting their bottom line. So when Google starts talking about this stuff, you know that it's a big deal. And he's saying that we all need to get together and fix the experience, because what's causing this is not the fact that, people are upset about a 250 by 300 pixel banner ad in the sidebar. What they're upset about is the web takeovers, the stuff that talks, the stuff that shakes and says, click here, you've won. And the stuff on mobile, the stuff that takes over the entire page, the stuff that pops up on websites and says, you may continue to the content in 15 seconds. Like, really? Those are becoming so pervasive. Like, let me give you guys an analogy. Back when the advertisements were essentially a guy, you walk outside, right? You walk out of your office or your house, and there's a guy standing out there, and he's like, excuse me, would you guys like to buy some candy bars? We've got some candy bars, 2 for $1. Do you guys want to buy some? You're like, no, thank you. And he minds his business, and you get in your car and drive off. Now what happens is you walk out your door, the guy grabs you by the ass and looks you in the eye and says, would you like to buy this candy bar? Soon you're going to go down to the courthouse and you're going to get a restraining order, which is ad block. Ad block is your restraining order. So we need to have, these ads need to stop grabbing us by the ass and looking us in the eye. They can try to sell us stuff, but they need to stop with the creepy crap, because we're going to go get a restraining order. And that's why on our website, we don't grab you by the ass and look you in the eye. We just throw some stuff on the sidebar that we think is kind of cool. Or sometimes it's a Google ad, which I don't know if it's cool or not, depending on what it is. But some of the stuff is curated. We actually curate some of our ads, like private internet access is what I personally use. Curated ad right there on the website. So
16 gigabyte DIMMs, because that's really, really impressive.
Curated ad. Yep, we put that one on the website because we believe in that stuff, and we have an affiliate code for that stuff as well. But, curated ads, man. So, yeah, I'm not going to grab you by the ass and look you in the eye, unless that's what you're into. But we probably won't do it anyway. Unless you give Patreon. I don't know.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be one of those upper echelons on the Patreon. Yeah.
Put up here like it's the new maybe that should be the 13,000 or the $1,333 or $1,337 one. We will come to your house, grab you by the house, look you in the eye, and say thanks. I can't keep saying that. That's creepy. It's creepy. I'm creeping myself out, man.
I've seen some ASMR videos like that.
ASMR videos right there? Yeah, that's what we're watching. I don't even know. That's ASMR means something else in Kentucky. Y'all. Florence. Anybody here watching from Florence? Y'all? All right, that's enough of that.
Probably just Ryan Shrout.
Does he watch us? He's probably sitting there being like, my God, these unprofessional buffoons trying to get people to... Yeah. And don't you forget it. Ryan, one of these days, we're going to shake your hand again. Now, Ryan is actually a ton of fun in person. I've only met him a couple times, but next time I see you at a LAN party, you and I are death matching in something, dude. This is all science. So anyway, thanks a lot to all the people. We are almost at the milestone for WAS returning. We've been outlining a lot of new original content. I'm going to be focusing on that. The main thing right now is using this money here to help get another full-time content person to help us make the videos and stuff. So I'm a bit burned out with doing 10 jobs. It'd be great to just get back and focus on content and not worry about all the editing and stuff. Have someone else helping out with the editing and the shooting and stuff. So Pistol does a lot as well. So anyway, there's that. Moving on. Microsoft and Google. Should we talk about this? They're ending a lot of their patent battles. I want to know what the implications of this are. It's interesting I don't think that they would just end their patent battles because, hey, let's just not bother each other anymore. Who's this that talks like this? Which company? He's probably from Microsoft. Let's just be friends. That's what he says. And the Google guy's like, okay. I brought my dog to work.
I think it's not anything to do with corporations. I think that they stand a really good chance of actually devaluing their entire patent portfolios because there's a judge in the Eastern District of Texas that just threw out over 100 patent cases, most of which were from, I think, Edeka LLC, which is one of the notorious patent trolls from a while ago. So that company's basically out of business at this point because their whole business was patent trolling. and all of those got thrown out. And so Google and Microsoft are looking at this and saying, well, if we don't actually go to court over these patents, we could probably shut down a smaller company, if they bother us. But right now, we as Google and we as Microsoft are making a lot of money off of patent royalties. I mean, Microsoft makes patent royalty money off of Android, and Google makes patent royalty off of a whole bunch of things. Both of them make tons of money off of royalties. So they're looking at the situation with software patents in America. Now, Europe has basically done away with software patents a while ago. The U.S., we're pretty close. The Supreme Court's basically said if we have to look at a software patent, it's not even a thing, because software is basically a mathematical construct, so it's a truth. So a particular program can be patented, but you could change the program in a really inconsequential way, and then that program wouldn't be patented at all. It's more complicated than that, but that's sort of the gist of it. And so what has happened recently is the Eastern District of Texas, which is the part of the U.S. that is the most friendly to all this patent nonsense, has basically even got tired of it and sick of it, and they're saying, nope, we're not going to do this. And a lot of it is because these patent trolls had gone after smaller companies, and even companies like Newegg, saying, oh, we've got a patent on electronic shopping carts, and we've got a patent on the buy now button. That was Amazon. We've got a patent on these really obvious things that will come.
They're ideas, yeah.
Yeah, a developer that's working on this was like, how can I make this easier to buy? I was like, well, if I know who's logged in, I can just have a button and it'll be a thing, and that's completely fine. So I think Microsoft and Google are looking at this and saying, we stand a chance of accidentally melting our patent portfolios. Let's just call it a day, and let's figure that out, because we both got enough money, we could really make it a mess for either one of ourselves. Let's not accidentally cancel all of our patents. That would be bad.
A lot of people are speculating that this could also mean that Microsoft and Google are going to start being buddy-buddy and working together, and I don't think that's what it is. I think it's exactly what you just said it was. Not
those people are wrong.
The former. Yeah. That's they're not going to start working together.
It's totally the thing I said, unless somebody can come up with some really interesting article to the contrary and post it in the comments, in which case I'll let you know next week what I thought of that article.
All right, this is going to be a quick mention because this is non-news. I'm just going to get rid of this. Samsung, apparently people are accusing Samsung of using software to cheat on energy efficiency tests. Samsung says, no, we're not. That's the end of it. It's people are still excited about this Volkswagen scandal. I think that's mainly.
Well, what's interesting? Did you see that I called it under American law? It's basically not even illegal what they did. So. Like the guy basically committed seppuku, and it was like, no, guy, wait, don't do that. This is America. It'll be fine.
He's bleeding out. Oh.
It's like, oh, it's too late. Oh, no. But yeah, they're trying to figure out how to charge Volkswagen with something. But it turns out that in America, that there's basically a loophole that allows them to do exactly what they did, and that's why they've been doing it. And so all these other companies are like, oh, our lawyers got something right for a change. And it's like, yeah, because guess who wrote those laws in the first place? Was it legislators? Was it people that knew what they were doing? Was it scientists? Yeah, it was the companies, just like AT&T, just like Tennessee.
All right, I think I'm going to, what else is on the list here? Let's say Google's Pixel C. Interesting. So Ars Technica got their hands on it, and some other people got their hands on it. Another tablet with a keyboard. It's an Android tablet, not a Chromebook. And it's got a keyboard. Here's some pictures on the bottom to show you how it works.
Let's call it what it is. It's another Surface clone.
Yeah, really. It's just running Android. I don't know if it'll be as functional as a Surface. I mean, it looks nice and all that. 10.2 inches? 2.2 inch Android tablet. Does anybody want one of these with a removable keyboard on Android? There's a lot of applications that take advantage of the keyboard on Android. I imagine there are. Anything you wanted to do with typing, but I mean,
having a Surface, the Surface is amazing. It is unbelievably awesome. It's less awesome on Linux because it's down to UI niggles, but the Surface is really, really awesome. The keyboard is probably the least awesome thing about the Surface, and it's the keyboard to do with lapability. Like, if you're going to use the Surface on your lap, it's not a pleasant experience. Most of the time, on the train, on a plane, an automobile, whatever, I've got the, somewhere to put the Surface, and it's basically okay. The Google solution to this is with the magnets is that they actually have a hinge in the keyboard, and so it's going to stay up on its own. The bad news is that you lose the area for the trackpad by having, the sort of leg that sticks off the back of the keyboard for more extra stability for when you're, using it in a lap configuration. But the keyboard is wireless and it charges inductively. And there's a lot of the times where I really wish that the Surface keyboard was wireless. Microsoft actually made a Bluetooth adapter for the Surface so you could use the keyboard wirelessly with the Surface. Unfortunately, the adapter was just awful, just unbelievably awful. And no one wanted to buy it.
I think this would be kind of nice for, well, it'd be really good if you wanted to take this thing to a meeting and have your friend with you at the meeting, pop it open. It's like a little stand where you could have, if I was going to a meeting here in Seattle and I wanted to have you with me or Jennifer with me, whoever came with me, open it up. That'd be a good use for it. But you could do that with a regular tablet with a stand. I mean, that would work. Typing emails, I guess, would be good. I don't know. I need some more applications for this kind of stuff. It's at a size where a 13 to 15 inch laptop is not too much bulkier.
On a table, on like a boardroom table or a conference table or something, the Surface is completely fine. It works out really good in a meeting. I don't know that I would use it in like keyboard up because it's kind of loud in a keyboard up configuration. In the keyboard down configuration, it's very quiet, easy to use in a meeting. I do like the form factor of the tablet, and I probably want to play with one, but I think that Microsoft really figured it out with the Surface form factor. There's not really been a silver bullet, like super Achilles heel. Maybe a convertible where like the keyboard can fold all the way backwards for something that's more on the laptop side. But I really like the tablet form factor because 90% of the time I don't need the keyboard. I just need the screen. I need to look at stuff. I need to read stuff, and it's a good form factor for that. And the Pixel tablet is probably just as good for that. It's Android. It's interesting because this is the first Pixel device that's not running Chrome OS. It's running Android. So that's maybe an interesting, foreshadowing of what's coming with the Android update. Maybe Google's going to merge those two together. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. It wasn't running Google's Chrome OS.
Now, speaking of Google, this will be the last thing I think we talk about with Google for a minute. Let's talk about Project Fi for just 1 second. We've talked about this before, but if you have missed that episode, what Project Fi is it's Google's solution to the carrier problem. They become a carrier, but you have to have a Nexus device as of now. You have to have a Google-made Nexus device. And what they do is they've partnered up with a few different services like T-Mobile and also Sprint. And they allow you to use a magical Google SIM that can support up to 10 different carriers. Just those two are the only ones that have signed up for it so far. So they support those two, even though they're totally different technologies. All that's built into the phone, the CDMA or the, whatever else I forgot in my brain. Anyway, when you get home, it transfers over to Wi-Fi, but you still have, all the abilities to make phone calls and text messages. It's just all done through your local Wi-Fi. And when you get out in the world, all you know is that you're connected to Google Fi. You don't know if you're on a Sprint tower or a T-Mobile tower. So they've made a little bit of headway. But I think the big thing here is, are they going to be able to get any of the other carriers involved with this? Are all the other carriers going to see this as an ultimate threat? Because what it does is it's going to transfer a lot of the control over to Google. And then Google will start being the company that supplies a lot of the devices. Because in order to have this, you have to have the correct Google devices. Nexus for now, but possibly in the future, devices can work with this magical SIM, this magical Google SIM that can allow you to connect to multiple services. And you're just paying Google. You're not paying Sprint. You're not paying T-Mobile. You're just paying for your Google Fi service. I don't know, Wendell. Do you think other companies are going to jump behind this? Do you think we're going to be able to see, AT&T or I don't know what's up at Rogers up in Canada? Do you think Google's going to be able to get? I know Google has roaming already, Google Fi, but I don't know. Do you think they'll be able to get all the other companies on board with this?
Incumbent carriers will never go for this, but the underdog carriers will. Smaller carriers will definitely go for this. Because think about it. I mean, from Sprint's perspective, they're going to get paid, and they're going to get paid based on usage. They're going to have income. Google has a lot of clout. They would be a really good, powerful business partner to have. You have definitely, we're talking about Sprint and T-Mobile. We know that they've at least looked at a merger and looked at acquiring one another. They kind of have competing technologies as far as the frequencies and the stuff that's going on. So you have to have a phone that supports multiple radios, which is really uncommon for the hardware to support, but the Nexuses support it. And so it's like, well, we can have a merger without actually having a merger. We're letting Google do the profit sharing between us. We don't actually have to change our infrastructure. And the cost of doing business may be reduced dramatically because we don't have customer service to worry about. We don't have onboarding necessarily to worry about. We don't have a lot of the things that really take up a lot of the bottom line, that really soak up a lot of the profits in terms of customer support and things like that. And so underdog carriers would look at it, if they look at it in that context, I think the underdog carriers will say, this could be really good. We could actually do this. And yeah, our coverage is not great, but combined, Sprint and T-Mobile together, that's a pretty large coverage footprint. I didn't have a chance to sort of do the math before the article, but somebody in the audience could probably, pull their maps and do the overlay and see if T-Mobile plus Sprint is larger than AT&T and is larger than Verizon. I would say that may be the case, and if that is, that would be like the super mega carrier that could leapfrog AT&T and Verizon. And so the panic of that might drive AT&T and Verizon into doing something, but only if it's marginally successful.
I think another key thing here is that this is also going to move the control of the Android platform over to Google instead of the carrier. So you're not going to have to worry about all the carrier bloatware. You're not going to have to worry about the carrier putting their own flavor of Android on there and never updating the damn thing. You'll be getting the latest updates straight from Google. When they roll it out, you'll be probably the first in line because, number one, you've got a Nexus device, which you've already been the first in line because you have that Nexus device. But with this service, you'll get all that. So I'm going to be curious. I think, go ahead.
Well, Google's also announced a bunch of partnerships with non-US carriers as well. So they should have pretty good representation in Europe, Japan, Asia. So this is going to be really interesting to see how this actually takes shape. I would love it if this makes AT&T and Verizon nervous. Anything that makes those guys nervous is probably good for the consumer.
Keep making them nervous, Google. All right, let's check out a couple of our new shirts. The new shirt of the month is here, and it is Yes We Cane. It's not on the store yet, but it will be tomorrow.
Cane we? I think we cane.
Now, there was a few really good versions of this. I decided to go with this one because I like the full suit, like the full suit jacket. I really love the suit. He looks ridiculous. So that's the one. We may make a poster or something featuring one of the other ones. I think iMaximus made one as well that looked pretty good, and I was going back and forth, but I like the full suit. So sorry, dude, I feel bad. But those posters, we may put up a poster around here or something. Anyway, we also have some new polos for some of you Linux sysadmins and that sort of thing with our penguin logo. It is sexy. Look at that thing.
Oh, do we have the interesting news from Europe about the EULA changes and like changes to European law to do with like video game refunds and crap like that?
No, I don't think we have that on here.
There's I don't know if this goes in gaming or general news, but there's a thing that's happening in Europe that's interesting, and that is that you may be able to get a refund on software within 30 days. So you know how Valve has like the 2-hour refund thing? Like you've been playing for 2 hours and then, no more refund is available. In Europe, I may be able to get a refund for up to 30 days. So this is going to be interesting to see if this actually comes to fruition.
I liked the way Valve was doing it. I thought it was pretty good. 30 days may be too much because you can really beat a lot of games in 30 days. Anyway.
Yeah.
The store. By the way, these things are selling great. The PC gaming weapon shirts. So I hope if you guys have one of these, I've still got our contest coming up with this. We haven't announced it yet, but you're going to do a contest where you have to name a bunch of these and then, yeah. So go ahead and start brushing up on your knowledge of these things, all these weapons here. I want to know if anyone's played every game that all these weapons are from. I think most old school hardcore PC gamers probably have, but there's a little bit of the old and a little bit of the new in there. Anyway, enough from the store. Hitachi. Hitachi says that they can predict crimes before they happen. We've got some Minority Report stuff going on right here. And, I mean, let's sit back and talk about this for a minute. Right now, police officers are being accused of profiling, they're being accused of being racist, they're being accused of all sorts of different things because they try to guess and predict what part of town, crime is going to be in. I mean, it's obvious. There's parts of town where crime rates are higher, but, they're still being labeled as, You know, like they know which corners to go look at. They know which parts of town to go look at. And they're doing a lot of it based on, you know, data, but also like intuition, and that bothers people. Well, let's remind you guys something. Chaos seems like chaos to us, but is in actuality the highest form of order. And what we need is something beyond our own processing capabilities, or beyond the way our brain processes, to look at it all. So Hitachi has developed some predictive crime analytics called the Visual Predictive Crime Analytics. That's what it's called. Or Hitachi Visual Predictive Crime Analytics. What it does is it takes tons of information from transit maps, social media maps, weather reports, and all kinds of stuff, throws all this stuff together, compiled with the history of stuff that's happened, and it can predict where crime is going to happen at around, you know, the times within a 200 square meter spot. So it's like, hey, you guys better be looking right here. So that's going to take some of the stress off of the police officers and stuff, because it's like, hey, software is looking through this and it tells us to look here. We're not just guessing that we should go look here. I mean, there's also going to be people that say that this is a violation of rights because it's going to increase police traffic in certain areas. And I'm not sure exactly how I feel about that. I don't think I really have an opinion on that. I feel like a lot of people are going to complain. That's just what happens. But if this can actually work and this data can be accurate, and just say, hey, why don't you go hang out in this part of town, and it actually helps to reduce crime and make, you know, areas safer, cool. The other fear I have is, what if this just drives things further underground? You know, like, oh, now we got to be clever so we can confuse this damned Hitachi software. Said no mobs forever, but they will soon. I don't know. Hitachi does a lot of stuff, like a ridiculous amount of stuff. I don't know. It's interesting software.
It's a little too Minority Report for me. I just, it's just as soon as, you know, the criminals are like, oh yeah, this thing is monitoring stuff, we need to do something slightly different. It's like they're going to do something different, and it's going to throw everything off. But then I guess the system will adapt because it's machine learning. So
yeah, I guess the problem will start if they ever say, okay, the machine says right here there's going to be a crime. And guess what? These two rough-looking guys showed up at about the same time as, you know, there should be a crime. Let's go ahead and arrest them to prevent it. As soon as it becomes a preventative thing, I mean, they're trying to prevent crime, yes. So the cop, maybe if a cop is there won't be a crime in the first place. But what if the cops go ahead and start taking measures like, hey, let's go ahead and arrest these people before they commit a crime? Then that's not cool. So let's see how this develops and how it goes. If it's being used in other parts of the world, you know, that do not have certain protections in their constitutions and that sort of thing, they may end up using it, just like I've said, and abusing the system a bit, or abusing their power a bit. Their predictive powers. These must be the criminals. They're here at the right time. Anyway, that egg looks delicious. I'm hungry. Look at this. Most popular. I'm getting distracted by the things on the sidebar. Next thing. AMD. Poor AMD. I'm really worried about AMD. So they were thinking about selling about 25% of they were, quote unquote, in talks to sell 25% of their company to Silver Lake Management. They've already broken off the graphics card division, and I'm not sure what idiots are in charge over there, but they didn't name it ATI. They named it like AMD Graphics Division or some nonsense. It should have been ATI. You guys, man, there would have been a whole new level of fan awoken in many of us. What? ATI is back? Even though it's not the real ATI. It's just, you know, it's like Mortal Kombat 17. Was Ed Boon even around? I don't know. I have no idea what we're talking about here.
I really don't know what to make of this stuff out of AMD. It's a really interesting set of things. I really don't know what to make of it. The guy, Keller, I think was his name, he was the guy that came over from Apple, I think, for the product design or like processor architecture, and he left. I would love to know why he left. I would love to know where he goes to work, where he ends up going to work, because that would probably say a lot about why he left. I've also read that AMD is having problems securing fabrication facilities for HBM2, and that could be really bad. And their stock price is, of course, you know, dangerously low. I mean, we could almost have a bake sale and get, you know, take over this company's, you know, share of 25% or whatever. But I really wonder what the strategy differences are here that they're talking about. I mean, HBM is the future. I mean, from an engineering standpoint, HBM really is the future. How can they screw this up? This is crazy.
I'm going to add another thing here on the Patreon. If we, this is, the top thing here is $35,000 a month. We'll start making documentaries. $1 million a month. If we can get Patreon to $1 million a month, we will buy AMD. That's a new reward tier. Just decided here. I should put that on there. Oh God, the speed at which AMD will call me, and the speed at which I won't care.
I don't think that they. I mean, I would do free. I would do a week of free consulting for them. I mean, really, honestly, and sign an NDA and it's like, all right, show me the dirty laundry here, fellas. Let's take a look at this, and then look at it and be like, oh no, guys, no, what are you doing? No, this is not. Do you know your market? No, this is. I mean, you got some wins in the console area, but that's not going to carry you. I mean, have you looked at how good the Xbox One is doing? No, you let Microsoft put a crappy RAM situation in the console, so that's not going to carry you for very much longer. We got to sort this out. We got to make it right. Come on, let's do some stuff, guys.
AMD, you guys need to have more nerds making decisions, and I mean, I'm not going to say who, but I met some of the guys who worked on the 8-core chips, who told me flat out these are server chips, and the marketing guys put a gun to our head and said that we have to release these as desktop parts, and we begged and screamed and cried on the floor and said, please don't release these as desktop chips. But they did, and it was a good price point, and I still stand by, that they are very good for the money. Put your money into the graphics card first and into the CPU secondary, but they were not meant to be. They're meant to be very, inexpensive server stuff.
I thought my 8350 was fine. It's as a Linux box running virtual machines and everything that I wanted to do with it. My 8350 was an amazing piece of hardware.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're fine, but I mean, people expected it to rival the top of the line expensive Intel stuff, but that's not what it did. It was commercially the first 8-core desktop chip, and that was like, yay, we did that thing, and then everyone's upset because when they say, ooh, an 8-core chip. Well, that's not as fast as some of the Intel hyper-threaded quad cores that are more expensive by $140. But people forget about that whole oh, who cares if it's more expensive? It's slower. Well, of course it's slower, dumbass. It's $150 cheaper, but the price to performance ratio is higher. So, yeah, sometimes people just care about the bottom line, and that's Intel. You guys can have Intel.
Zen isn't expected to ship for revenue until Q1 of 2017, which means AMD has to survive the next 18 months until it begins recognizing revenue from sales and continuing results. My question is why are we just working out problems with the architecture until then? And is there enough cash to actually do that properly? And if that's all we're doing, could we double up? And, if somebody gave them $100 million or $500 million or whatever, would they be able to do that a lot quicker? Because if they could move out Zen 6 months early, that would be amazing. But processor engineering doesn't necessarily work like that. But HBM2 and some of the other technologies, those are good. So,
all right, we need everyone to tweet at AMD with the hashtag consult with Tech Syndicate.
I don't think we should encourage people to do that.
I want them to do it.
It'll just annoy AMD.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if they get annoyed. I don't care if we annoy them. They're in trouble. We're trying to help. You guys are bleeding, and we've got some gauze and we've got some Band-Aids over here, and you're like, no, we're fine. Like, no. I will bother you until you put on this Band-Aid. Listen, do it, people. It's hashtag. I've never actually done the hashtag thing. Hashtag consult with Tech Syndicate. And then, tag Tech Syndicate and tag AMD. Everyone. They're going to be so angry with me. It's not like they ever cared about us anyway.
It's like, hey guys, what happened with that whole ARM thing? Remember, what happened with that ARM on x86 thing? That guy left, right? What happened with that?
No one's talking about it.
What's going on with some of this other stuff you guys have been... We heard some stuff about some other stuff. What's going on with that? Yeah, nothing.
They are basically the British Parliament right now, just going, what? Nothing. We don't know. That's pretty much what it's like.
The other really irritating thing is that in terms of raw compute performance, the Fury is insane. The Fury is unbelievable. It's like I've got a bunch of floating point stuff I need to do. The Fury is crazy, especially compared to the 980, the 980 Ti. The drivers just they're not there. And on Linux, the 390X is your only the Fury on Linux is a joke at this point. So AMD's working on some stuff and they're going to open source it and it's going to be great, but right now today it's awful. But the 390X on Linux is great, but not the Fury.
We'll set you guys straight. Seriously. I'm selling consulting services right now. Instead of doing the tech, people actually think that this is a show about technology. It's just for us to sell consulting services to AMD.
Hey, that's what Annan did. Annan Little Shimpy. Worked for him.
Now he's working at Apple. But, he was doing his consulting services while he was working at a non-tech. And you guys need to know. He was doing a lot of consulting for Intel. He was getting a lot of money from Intel while he was writing journalism stuff about Intel. All right. Anyway, let's move on here. Some science stuff. DIY spray-on solar technology. It's like a non-organic technology, which has been very difficult to deal with, but they've fixed the problem by making nano stuff. I'm in a hurry right now because I want to get to some of the next articles. And I think this one's interesting because the implications here are if they can figure this out, which the people that are working on this at the St. Mary's College of Maryland, they're working on this. But if they figure this out, they'll be able to have a spray coating that you can just spray on whatever and make it solar. I think that might be the future. Not immediately, but can you imagine being able to take any building, any rooftop, any whatever, make the walls of a building and just spray on a nano coating, and all of a sudden the building is, soaking up power from the sun. That's pretty cool.
It's got carbon nanotubes. And so remember, you just got to search and replace carbon nanotubes with asbestos.
All right, moving right along here. Micropigs. Should we gene edit micropigs, or should we be creating micropigs? So in China, Shenzhen, China, this is a micropig. There we go. They did some gene hacking, and right there they are, and they're selling for a lot of money, 10,000 yuan, which is about $1,600 US. And look at that thing. People are talking about how cute it is. They even put that. Yes, they micropigs. No, they didn't put cute in the headline. I've seen some headlines on the internet that say uber cute micropigs. Don't tell me what to think. I'll decide if they're cute or not. You headline. Anyway, I guess the point of some of the stuff in the article here is that should we be wasting time creating micropigs? Is that a responsible way to use this technology? And right now they're testing the markets to see if it's viable. And I think that, this is going to be just like every other thing. People are going to find it and do whatever makes money. And then there's going to be the moral implications of should we be genetically modifying things? And should we be making pigs tiny and putting pink bows on them? What if they don't like pink? What if they identify as a male pig trapped in a female pig's body?
Oh, Lord. No, I'll tell you exactly how all this got started. This got started with there was an American TV commercial, and I think it made it over to the UK eventually. And it was like a credit card commercial, and it's like, what will you buy? And one of the things the guy in the commercial bought was a miniature giraffe. That is what has kicked off this nonsense. That was years ago. And so it's like, miniature giraffe. We'll work on that. But for now, micro pig. And soon, Syndicate.
Soon. We're going to have to make a Syndicate t-shirt. You realize that we have to make a Syndicate t-shirt now.
I'm just trying to end the world's meat problem. It's. I don't want to go full artificial meat. I'd rather go bioengineered meat. And if it comes from a huge suffering Syndicate, so be it.
You have to throw in suffering as an adjective.
Well, I don't figure it can move around very much. It's literally just a cow, maybe they cut it off in sections and then regrow it. I mean, that would be one way to do it. It's like they don't really incubate the synth. Like they're not, gestated normally. It's they cut off, segments of the Syndicate and grow new segments. It's really kind of horrifying.
Only a coward would do that. Let's talk about artificial cells. They've actually created some artificial cells, and they used DNA, and then they did some certain things. I forgot what they did. They hit them with some chemicals, and they made these artificial cells perform just like a regular cell. They split. So the DNA, the artificial cells were not technically alive, but they were synthetic machines that they added the DNA to, and then once they tested them, they actually split. But the problem they were having is, these cells, once they split, they can't really, it's difficult for them to split again because, the regular cells, they grow, they soak up nutrients, they do some other things. But this is the first step. Interesting. Cells as machines. And the DNA and stuff are still, the stuff still, you have to have that. Not really synthetic DNA just yet. Synthetic DNA? How about some of that? Kind of an interesting topic here. I'm again glossing over a lot of things here, but
eventually they'll get to a point where the cells just replicate without control, and then they'll have cancer.
Just ending every topic on like an awkward one-liner, like, well, that sucks. Moving right along. Oh, we forgot to talk about the new memory chips that use light and store and transmit data 100 times faster than SSDs from BGR. Topics, Deals, Reviews podcast. Yeah. So, way lower latency and 100 times faster than an SSD. The problem with this is they've been able to store stuff this way before, but the problem was that they had to maintain constant power or else the data was lost. So now, where's the study being done, or where's the University of Germany's? I'm not even going to say that. Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. They say that they have removed the issues. Interesting.
It is interesting. Apparently, an optical waveguide is the secret to the technology here. I just like that I like that they're talking about silicon photonics because that's a term I first heard in Star Trek.
And here it is. It's how we're gonna store things. Extremely fast storage. So again, this is over my head. but I'm glad they're doing this in Germany. So thanks everyone at the Institute of Technology, Karlsruhe. I don't know. I don't learn German yet.
Well, it's okay. So part of the magic here is that this is the coding that they use on rewritable DVDs, but they're not using the coding on the DVD. They're using the coding on a chip, basically. And instead of mechanically moving stuff to read it, well, I mean, I guess they are still kind of sort of moving mechanical things, but they're using a laser to pit it and a laser to read it. So this is not actually like super new technology. Yeah, it's just they're moving. It's not, instead of being on a spinning disc, it's on something else. But when you think about the data density that's on a DVD, it's fairly impressive. Even though the disc is only 4 gigs, the size of the pits and that kind of thing. So we're talking about this being a little bit more shielded environmentally and being able to deal with much smaller resolution and smaller stuff. So increased data density is good because for only 4 gigs in the surface area of a CD, by today's standards, that's not really good. But by like human eyeball standards, if you look at that and see how small that is, it's pretty impressive.
You want to check in on Paul Allen and see what he's been up to? He's working on building a brain, but he's having a hard time. He's worth a lot of money. He's only thrown, his $500 million sounds like a lot of money, but we're building an artificial brain. Like people
Paul
do more
Allen's
than
one of the original Microsoft people. So like first employee number 12 or 13, I think. So $500 million for Paul Allen is like, $20 for you and me.
Yeah, it's like a nice meal. It's like an okay meal. So, but he's thrown $500 million at this, and it's been difficult. The goal is to make an artificial brain that can pass a science test at a high school level. It's pretty interesting. I hope he does it. He's going to throw more money at it. It looks like there's lots and lots and lots of barriers to cross here. But it is good that that's something he's spending his money on, I think. I mean, I'm all for artificial intelligence. Bring it on. We'll figure out the problems. Well, hopefully along the way we'll take the consequences into account. But I don't know. Maybe once the artificial intelligence arrives, they'll be able to make us smarter. Maybe they'll kill us. I don't know. I think an alien race is more likely to kill us.
I like it. I always like articles. Like this Washington Post article was clearly written by somebody that doesn't have a background in computer science and doesn't know very much about artificial intelligence or how any of those kinds of things work. And it's always interesting because with artificial intelligence, there's like at least 5 basic approaches for dealing with that. And if you really want to get technical, it's probably more like 15 or 16 basic approaches. But it doesn't really do a good job of explaining what exactly Alan has in mind for how he wants to approach this, other than part of the article talks about basically replicating the biological structure of the brain and hoping that they get an emergent intelligence they can wire up to a computer. But I think this is a little bit mad science. I think we've got to understand a little bit more about the biological mechanism before we just start implementing it, because it's like, oh, let's just wire up a bunch of neurons and cross connect them and hope for the best. It's not unlike in Short Circuit when the robot gets hit by lightning. It's like, oh, look, it's alive now. It's a convenient plot device, not a source of actual science.
All right, I think I'm ready to talk about some video gaming. What about you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
This is kind of fun. So this is what happens when your wife tells you that you can do whatever you want in the basement. He decided to build a vault door like from Fallout, and right there it is, the finished product. I guess there's more pictures on Instagram or on Imager or whatever the hell this thing is. Yeah, there it is. He's building it. That's pretty awesome. There's a video of this thing too if you guys are curious. There it is right there, a little animated GIF.
I need that.
I want it to not be manual. Let's make it smoother. I mean, it's okay. It's cool. I'm like being a jackass here. It's really freaking cool. Anyway, so there's that. That's something to mention. It's not really anything too wild. Let's check out this OpenCritic platform. So Metacritic has been around for a while, and then a lot of companies really rely upon the Metacritic score. But the problem with Metacritic is that they favor certain publications over others, and they're the ones who decide which publications are important. So a lot of times, these few publications, IGN, 10 out of 10, best game ever, 9 out of 10, oh, we love Call of Duty. Those publications sometimes have more weight in the way Metacritic rates a game. So it's not actually an average of all the reviews. It's an average that's skewed towards certain publications. And, a lot of companies, they give out bonuses to their employees based upon the performance on Metacritic, because Metacritic means more sales. And Metacritic has way more flaws than what I've just named. It's a pretty bad system to use when deciding if you want to buy a game or not. Now, a good system to use would probably be to finding certain authors that you really agree with, and they're like, hey, this guy, he writes for this website or whatever, but that's irrelevant. This guy in particular, he likes the same kinds of games that I do and seems to enjoy the same sorts of experiences. He sees the nuances I see, and it really resonates with me, man. I like this reviewer. Find a few of those guys out there on the internet and follow them. And so OpenCritic is going to allow you to do some things like that. They allow you to create your own system. Like you pick the sites, and they also show the authors, which is very important. They show the author. So you can find out, you can follow just the stuff that you want to do and sort of create your own aggregate. So when a new game comes out, you'll see what, your favorite reviewer and also your favorite websites say about that game. So you'll have a personal score that will probably speak more to the types of games that you like or the style of games that you like. And I think that's a very interesting idea. And it does a few other things as well. But this could be something that, interesting. I guess you're going to have to sign in and make an account for all these things. And I haven't played with this yet, so I can't speak to how good it is, but it looks pretty interesting. Undertale.
It does look interesting. I want to play around with it a little bit more. I like that I've just clicked on Kerbal Space Program, for example, and I like that they've got all the reviews from everywhere, and they're all sort of basically weighted the same. Like Rock, Paper, Shotgun, I guess, doesn't have a score, but I can go read the full review, so...
Right.
It's nice that all this is in one place. We should do this for hardware.
Yeah, I really... Yeah, ooh.
It's like, we'll review it. You guys review it too. Whatever. We don't care. Whatever.
You're giving away all our ideas here. We'll
build
do
our own hardware platform with blackjack and hookers. It'll be great.
Blackjack and hookers. We're setting up shop in Macau right now. Yeah. Speaking of bad ideas, remember that stupid Deus Ex pre-ordering scheme? The one where they had all the different tiers where like, hey, if this many people, it was almost like a Kickstarter campaign. I thought it was the most ridiculous. I have, number one, I think pre-ordering is terrible, especially when they offer special incentives, you know? So they had all these early rewards.
That it would just be a tragedy.
Well, luckily, we have been yelling and screaming enough, and they've decided to listen to the internet. The outrage has actually paid off this time, guys. They have canceled their ridiculous pre-order campaign, and I hope that whoever thought of this campaign was shot. I hope that. Maybe in the leg, because then I don't want him to die. I don't want him to die. Anyway.
But they need to remember the pain of the horrible idea that they had, so that when they have another idea like that in the future, they go, oh, that didn't really work out so good. Maybe I shouldn't do that.
Their leg will throb. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, last time I did that, I got shot in the leg. Anybody want to come work for Tech Syndicate right now?
I've noticed that in these large organizations, the situation is usually like, if you screw up really bad, they fire you. But if you screw up so bad that it's epic how bad you screwed up, you get promoted because they don't know what else to do with you. It's just like, oh, he's created this horrible situation. He's got to stay and deal with it, but I know, let's promote him. It's like chief person in charge of cleaning up this horrible mess.
That's his new executive position. You're the executive of dealing with bullshit.
It's definitely worked for Electronic Arts.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's pretty much the end of the show. So thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to the people. You guys are the best out there. Put this on the screen again. Remember, $1 million a month is the goal. $1 million a month, and we will buy AMD. Mm-hmm. And we will rename
a little bit more than that, but we can get started. Probably get their attention at least.
That's $1 million a month. If we get if we can go to an investment firm and be like, look, we're guaranteed $1 million a month. They'll be like, all right, you want to, the $20 million loan or whatever. That's that's you guys can pay it back with the interest in a couple of years. And we're like, yeah, we'll go ahead and buy AMD, and we'll rename the graphics division to ATI.
It'll just be step one.
Yep.
Honestly, AMD could probably save themselves a bunch of money and just do that now, and then we don't have to bother. We don't have to bother, we can put the money to better use than that. But hey, whatever. It's whatever. I don't care.
I'm trying to get to $1 million here. Once we get there, I'll be like, oh, we've changed our minds. Thanks for the $1 million. But now we're going to buy helicopters and have helicopter. We're going to have helicopter destruction derby.
I would go in for designing the tech jet. That would be nice. The tech jet.
Anyway,
it's like the X jet, but not the X jet. It's the tech jet.
I would drive it to work every day. I work at home.
On autopilot. There'll be no driving. It will drive itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, drive through. Yeah. All right, guys.
You drive through at the Wendy's in the tech jet. That would be amazing. I need 2 medium Frosties and a 10-piece nugget. All right, thanks. Baked potato and a chili.
They're like, sir, why do you have a jet at the drive-through window? Because the parking lot was full, obviously. Yeah, we'll see you guys next time. You guys are awesome. Best audience on the internet. That's it.